Yo, 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 what is good? What is good? What is good, beautiful people? Of course, you know who I be, the good doc, Dr. Mike TV. Back again, once again, with a follow-up recap version of the previous live stream we put out about toxic Philippine culture. Now, I understand personally that my talking points may not be popular with some people, but I want you to understand that everything that I'm saying is coming from a good place, and this is more or less a synopsis or a shortened version of the live stream that was recently put out, just in case you guys do not want to listen through all the way for a 2 hour or so live stream, okay? So, my perspective as it comes when it deals with toxic Philippine culture is me and my young lady were watching the news and we were getting news articles and stories about the poor, impoverished individuals of the Philippines that were receiving help from the government seemed to be dissatisfied and unhappy with the amount of money that they were receiving from the government, saying that it was not enough. Now, you got to understand, these people have been receiving help from the government prior to this pandemic. And what ended up happening was the money that they were receiving was doubled as a result of this pandemic, but yet and still they were complaining as if the money that they were receiving was not enough. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking to myself, man, this to me is one of the toxic parts of the culture wherein there's never satisfaction. There's never enough money that can be given to people, free money, money that they didn't even have to work for, to satisfy these individuals. There's always going to be a reason why the money is not enough. Oh, I got to buy this. Oh, I got to take care of that. Granted, it's free money. There will always be a reason why some people might complain about the money they're receiving not being enough. And I'm thinking to myself, man, I've never met so many people dissatisfied with the money that they're receiving for free, telling people that it's not enough, and yet and still the middle class of the Philippines, big salute to you, my working class, blue collar Philippine folk who work every day, who lost their jobs, and unless the company is giving them money, they're not going to receive a cent from the government to an extent. You know, I think there was a one-time payout of about 5,000 pesos that I can remember. Don't quote me on that. But my middle class people who have lost their jobs, they're just SOL because the government is not giving them any assistance, you know? And I'm thinking to myself, that is just highly disappointing how the dynamic of the impoverished level of individuals that are getting free money are just not satisfied, but yet and still people who are getting nothing are having to live on nothing. Granted, there's some rice being given out and things like that, or there's some assistance being given out in some barangays and stuff. Sometimes that's not enough. I'm not going to get into that because that's not what this is about. But in reference to the toxicity of the culture, in reference to people continuously asking for stuff and not being satisfied, I think that that could be a very, very negative aspect. Now, again, I understand the words coming out of my mouth are not going to be popular. This is not going to be a popular video. People are probably going to hate me for this video, but I want you to understand it comes from a good place. I want you to understand that it comes from a foreigner perspective of somebody who genuinely loves the time and experiences that he's had in the Philippines. 10 years in the game, ladies and gentlemen, 10 years plus in the game, considering all the time spent since I've been back. I want you to understand it all comes from a great point and it all comes from a great place and a great space. But I also don't want you to forget that there are people from the outside looking in who may see this and be like, damn, you know, people are never satisfied. I can help you as much as I can, and people will always be wanting more and more and more. From the foreigner perspective, if you're dating a foreign man, ladies, just throwing this out there, not saying that it's all of y'all, some of y'all, not all of y'all, but some of y'all. If you're dating a foreign man, you can't expect this man to always be your knight in shining armor and savior of the masses and help you with everything that is going on in your family's life or your family's situation. You can't always look at the foreigner man and expect him to be the savior, because what I've noticed is if you help a little bit, there always seems to be other issues and problems and things that may occur. Medical problems, issues with the house, issues with schooling, this, that, and the other. Mom wants a sorry store, something that is going to require you to ask the foreigner for more money. And the minute that foreigner says no, all of a sudden he's like disowned. All of a sudden he's like no part of the family or some shit, because the one time he says no out of the 100 times that you ask, all of a sudden he's the bad guy. You understand? And I don't want that to be the negative stigma that surrounds foreigners in the country if they're not able to help. I want you to understand, if a foreigner is not able to help, by all means, don't look at him as if he's the bad guy. Because you can't look at the Kano, the Kano, the Americano, as your knight in shining armor, as the savior of the masses. Because again, we live no different than anybody else. Philippine life and American life, to an extent, is not that much of a difference. Some of us live check to check. Some of us got our own bills and responsibilities to pay for, and that doesn't leave us with a lot of money every single month to be able to give to you. I understand that the US dollar trades for a whole lot more than a Philippine peso, but what I want you to understand is we may not have enough dollars to even create the pesos that is needed to help take care of your concerns. So I don't want you to look at the foreigner man as if he is the person that's going to save you from your drama, when he can probably barely save himself in most instances. Also, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to take into account my OFW's. Big salute to my overseas Philippine workers out there getting it on the grind continuously. Most of the Filipinos that I know in the United States are nurses, okay? And yes, nurses make a pretty decent salary. And one thing that I've noticed about Filipinos is they know your salary range if you tell them what industry you work in. I told one young lady that I was a teacher. She's like, oh, teachers make between 25,000 and 50,000 a year. Like, how you know my salary and shit? You know, I was joking, but out loud I'm thinking to myself, man, I said, they do their research. So if you're working as a nurse in the US, and granted, let's say for example you're clearing $3K, everybody thinks that you got $100 to wipe with your ass because you're a Filipino making US dollars. And you know, the expectation and the family help that seems to be surrounded and attached with the Philippine culture in reference to the tight dynamic of, you know, family life and everything. If the family asks for something, you got to give it. By all means, some of them are not taking into consideration that, yo, I got to pay my own bills. I got to do all of my own shit. I got to live for myself. And when I'm done paying everything that I need to, I'm pretty much left with very little, and what very little I'm left with, I can't save because mother and father needs my assistance back home to send my brothers and sisters to school. Again, the toxicity of this part of the culture, granted, I understand the strong family dynamic. I understand it way too much. But what they're failing to understand is you got to take care of you too, boo. You got to take care of what you got going on in your life. You got to take care of yourself. But they won't allow you to take care of yourself because the way that they've, you know, raised you is to take care of the family. And all of this shit drilled and innately, you know, part of your culture and innately part of your lifestyle growing up. Mother and father telling you, look, you're going to take care of the family when you get older. When I get old, I want you to take care of me, and this, that, and the other. That thought process, when you make it as an OFW, now all of a sudden you're feeling the obligation to do so, even if you don't have the money to do so. So what do? You're taking out loans from banks in whatever country that you're in, and you're probably never going to be able to pay it back. I've seen it happen, ladies and gentlemen, and all because of the toxic culture in which you were raised in that tells you and forces you to believe that you are required by law to take care of the family. I'm not saying that you shouldn't help. I'm saying that you shouldn't go broke trying to help. And I think that this constitutes the toxic part of the culture. I want you to be able to do what you can for your family as an OFW, but sometimes you're not going to be able to satisfy everybody. Again, you can't come home from your job after saving up all of the money that you have and spend it on everybody instead of yourself. If you can't treat yourself, take care of you while you're in the US, that's not going to do you any favors when you go back home, because heaven forbid you work 10 years in a country, you come back home with nothing to show for it because you've sent all your money home to your family and your family has squandered it. They didn't build that sorry store in an effort to make something of it or to create more wealth or to, you know, build up the money that they have. You want to know why they didn't do so? Because they already knew that every month, every 15 days or so, you were going to be sending that money automatic. So whenever that money was known to be automatic and it was going to come consistently, they probably spent that money as they deemed fit because they knew that the money was going to come in the next month. So you come back home and you've sent all your money home with the expectation of certain things being in place, and you come home to nothing as an OFW. Again, I've seen it happen to some, probably more than more than not, and it's sad. All right, I've seen OFWs come home to nothing. OFWs come home after sending all their money home, and they're forced to be tricycle drivers, or they're forced to be, you know, whatever mediocre job that they could possibly get after being an OFW. Imagine you were working in an industry that was paying you so well. You got to come back home to work for a Philippine salary. And I'm not saying that in a disrespectful tone. I'm just saying that when it comes to making that OFW money, and it comes to making that Philippine money, there is no comparison, ladies and gentlemen. And the fact that you come home to nothing because family has squandered it all, because you felt an obligation to take care of them without taking care of yourself first, or putting away some money for yourself first, is the reason that I believe toxicity will always exist in the Philippine culture from that instance. Now, let me say this out loud. My culture has its own toxicity issues. I am not going to sit here and say that the United States of America does not have its own toxic issues. But what I will say is that living in the Philippines has taught me that, how can I say this? My life in the Philippines has taught me that dealing with the toxic culture from this perspective, it's going to be a never ending story, because as long as you continue to help, there'll never be satisfaction in what they receive. Everybody's always going to keep wanting and wanting and wanting until you can no longer give. And like I said, that one time that you can no longer give, everybody's looking at you like you're the bad guy. It doesn't have to be just from an American perspective, a foreigner perspective. It could be from a Filipino perspective. The minute you say no to family, god dang, they're like ready to disown you. And I think that's the saddest thing in the world. And I wish that we could change this part of the culture. But again, we have to understand that this is the world that we are living in reference to Philippine life. As a foreigner in the country, I've learned to say no. I've mastered the word no. How I say no may not be the words no. But if they ask, tell them, I don't have it right now. I got my own shit to take care of. I just don't have it. That's just my way of saying no. However you slice it, you got to master the word no, however you want to say it. There are good things and bad things about the culture, ladies and gentlemen, and this is just one of the things that you're going to have to prepare for as a foreigner and also an OFW. I am not going to sit here and tell you that this video is going to be popular. Might get more dislikes than I've ever had in my life, but let me tell you this. It's all coming from a good place, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not saying that I'm here to change it. I'm just talking about it from my perspective and just getting it out here in a video. However you deem fit to speak on it, I'm not going to stop you from having your points in the comment section. Too disrespectful, I will get rid of it. But if you have something that you want to add to it, by all means, I'm not going to stop you from doing so. If you want to hit a dislike, I'm not going to stop you from doing so. You do as you deem necessary. And Doc will let you live, and this video shall live on. If you wanted to watch the extended version in the live stream, the first hour and a half or so, maybe the first hour at least, that's what we talked about. The last part of the live stream, we kind of got into our own topic in reference to stocks and stuff like that. But anyways, I wanted to make sure that this video lives, and I want to make sure that my words are coming from a positive place, ladies and gentlemen. I just wanted to get this out. All right. So with that being said, the good doc is officially out. At least nako paalam, which means I am going now. Bye-bye. As always, love you guys. Mahal kita. Mabuhay. Peace.